Good evening. I'd like to call to order the June 10th Committee of the Whole meeting. Mrs. Bope, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Garza?
Here.
Councilmember Hussein?
Here.
Councilmember Pelley Venoglu?
Present.
Councilmember Carter?
Here.
Councilmember Brown?
Present.
Councilmember Jackson?
Present.
Councilmember Cost?
Here.
Councilmember Spatafor?
Present.
8 members present.
All right, thank you. Moving down, we are to the minutes, May 20 minutes, Vice President Hussein.
Sure, I move the May 20th, 2024 meeting minutes.
Okay, we've got a proper motion in place. Do we have any questions or concerns? All right, seeing none. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. All right, motion passes. Okay, now we are to public comment on agenda items. If there's anybody in the public that would like to come to address council, now is your time. You will have 3 minutes, and please state your name for the record.
Loretta Stanaway, and I wanted to talk today about things relating to police, fire, and 9/11, and how we are at this point in time utilizing resources in a very inefficient way when something like 60% of the paramedic calls are what we would term nuisance calls that could easily be handled by other means, and we just don't have the structure in place to allow that to take place. So I think it is time that we have conversations with all the interested parties to talk about things like developing a forward plan for implementing medical taxis that could take up all those slack runs and relieve the stress on our people and our equipment and our budgets, and also to look at reserve officers. We had that recent mass shooting at the Shuffle Club, and there were at least 3 instances involved in that shooting where reserve officers could have been of benefit. First off, if there were reserve officers available to be on duty and patrolling, they might have seen that crowd developing before anything ever happened and broken the crowd up and dispersed those people. Secondly, when there was time for needing to have scene security and perimeters, we had to bring in people from other counties on mutual aid. We could have done some at least of that with our reserve officers if they were in place. And right now, off the top of my head, I forgot my third point, but there is one. So just be aware that there are conversations that could be and should be going on about looking at how we can restructure our use of our emergency services to better serve the public, to better serve the workers that carry out those difficult and strenuous duties, and to save our dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any additional public comment? All right, seeing no in-person public comment, we do not have any virtual public comment either, so we will move on down to presentations. We have new 911 mass notification system, and I believe Barb Davidson from the Ingham County 911 Director is here. All right, please come down to the well. Yes, thank you. Make sure your green light is on, and the floor will be open to you, and we will let you go through your presentation, and then we'll open up for questions. So you got to press that button down there, and the green light should pop on.
Okay, better.
Yep.
My voice is terrible, so I don't know that it is better, but 'tis the season, I suppose, with the allergies, so I apologize in advance. And thank you for allowing me to come in here and speak to you tonight about RAVE, which is a new mass notification platform that we'll be utilizing in Ingham County. I'd like to run you through the platform itself, its characteristics, and some of the whys on why we decided to make this move. Did it advance?
All right, City TV, could you bring up the presentation, please? Looks like we only have one screen working. Sorry. We only have one screen working. This one's not working? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Probably not helping. There we go. Let's start out with why we made this change. As you all know, the contract that the city of Lansing and Ingham County had with Everbridge was due to expire at the beginning of June. And we were already in the process of shopping, so to speak. Our preliminary conversations with the Everbridge folks were that they were going to raise the rate, though they weren't able to explain to us what benefits we would be getting or if there was any enhancements to the product. So we were already shopping. February of 2023, we learned some very unfortunate lessons after the MSU shooting. That definitely spawned some more robust shopping. We had the ability to have a presentation by the Rave Corporation, and we looked at the product, and some of the things that we learned from February of 23 were answered by the Rave product. Number one, it was cheaper. Number two, ease of use, which was something that became very important that night as the 911 center became inundated with calls. We needed to be able to lean into our partners to be able to do some of the notifications we were just not capable of doing that night. Number three, we really wanted something that would integrate with our CAD, which is computer aided dispatch, which is the computer program we use in the 911 center every day. And number three, we wanted and learned from them that they had a product that would enhance our reach. And they also had a product that would help our responders who were out on some of these complex calls and be able to give them essentially a task list to assist them when these very chaotic scenes happen. That was part of the reason that we went with Rave. But we did understand that it was going to be a big ask of the citizens of the county and the city, that this was going to be a change, and that we needed to be able to explain why this was an important change for them. I included this in the packet just to illustrate the point. This is a report that was generated after we sent out an alert on the Everbridge platform prior to the transition. We didn't have great adoption of Everbridge in the county as a whole. We just didn't. There's 280,000 people who call Ingham County home, and we had less than 10,000 people that had Everbridge accounts. So we needed to find something that would be more attractive to the citizens and be able to engage them in a way that they could pick and choose how they wanted to be engaged. So to just talk about the product itself and Rave, the overview. So the product platform is called Rave. But what we purchased, and by we, I mean Ingham County 911, we purchased 3 products underneath this platform. So the platform itself is purpose-built. It is for critical communications and for collaboration, which is going to help us with some of the goals that we had established prior. The goal of the purchase was to be able to prepare, respond, and recover during emergencies. That is, of course, the most important thing. And to develop a platform and be able to engage the citizens in a way that they would trust the platform as well. So the platform is called Rave. The first product we bought was called Rave Alert. So this is the mass notification portion. That's the platform that we will utilize, and my partners will utilize to notify the citizens. It's easy to use. We've set folks up to succeed here, but it is really 3 clicks to be able to send a notification to the citizens. We want to and continue to talk with folks about preparedness, but if we aren't going to give them something they feel like they can lean into to be prepared, it's all for naught. So that's part of the reason why we went with this, because it would also ensure that they could receive communication the way that they decide, whether it be phone calls, email, text messages. There's an app with this as well. Social media, we can do digital signage with it, desktop caps, Internet of Things. The next pages talk about how we build this audience. So there's my platform that I'm going to use to alert the audience. The next part is we have to build the audience, which is where we are asking for the citizens to engage us. And how we do that is with Smart 911. Rave Smart 911 is another component of this. It is free, though. We did not pay for this. It's a way for individuals, a pretty simple way in my opinion, to prepare for emergencies and assist us, responders, in helping them as efficiently as we can. When you build a Smart 911 profile, it is completely to your discretion on what information you decide to share with us. It can be very robust or it can be very minimal. I personally have a Smart 911 profile. I live in Ingham County. My daughter has asthma. That is something that I want 911 to know whether I am with her or not. And that's a way I tagged her cell phone number in my Smart 911 profile, and if she were to call 911, that information would present on the screen to the call taker so they would know that. This is something, as far as like the features, it can be, again, as detailed as you want. I actually have our dog listed in my own Smart 911 profile. He is a mutt and doesn't do anything but bark a lot, but I would hate for anybody to feel like they didn't have that information before if they had to enter our home. Alerts, we can opt into alerts with Smart 911, and this is also something that will travel with you. You build a Smart 911 profile. I built one for my mother. That is also a feature of Smart 911. The person who it is for doesn't necessarily have to be the person who builds it. My mom's 81 years old and isn't exactly tech savvy, and she would rather not. So I built the profile for her, which was done. She's a snowbird and likes to go to Florida, and the county in where she visits in the wintertime also has Smart 911. So if she were to call 911 from her cell phone, it would present in that 911 center as well. The next page is a visual of what Smart 911 looks like in our 911 center and what we see. I know that there's some concern about privacy and the decision making on what you will or won't provide to us, and that is completely your decision. This is what we see in the 911 center. This is not a database that can be searched by us. It only presents when your telephone number that's associated with your account calls 911. This isn't a database that I'm going to be able to poll and look for information about you. That's not how it works. I think it's important also to note in this that you can decide what language we engage each other in as well. One of the big things that we need to be very heads up about is engaging people not only in the communication method in which they would like to be engaged, but also in the language with that they would like to be engaged. If Spanish is, you're a native Spanish speaker, you can have this translate so that alerts come to you in Spanish. When you communicate back to me in English. I think it's very important. The next page is just highlighting a couple of the different ways that you can decide to engage or load this depending on how you would like. There is an application that's free in your app store, Google Play or the Apple Store. If that's how you would like to be engaged, that is certainly how it can be done. I've had some folks that have gone in there and they're like, well, I want to do this and I want to get Ingham County and the city of Lansing stuff, but I don't want to put my address in there. Okay. If you put it in there to start, the database then at least knows where you are to encourage alerts that are in your area. So it knows that you would be interested in looking at Ingham County alerts or Eaton County alerts, and then the address can be deleted. It's got to have some place to start with you, though. That was definitely a concern that I've taken from a citizen prior to this presentation. The next page, well, it's highlighting children in the checklist for schools. As much as I may or may not like it, and my daughter would be quick to tell you I was very late in letting her have a cell phone. Boy, they do have them, don't they? And young. This is part of that preparedness piece. Know whose parents they are, if they're linked with your household and your 911 profile. This page is highlighting the platform itself, which is the web address that you can use to start a Smart 911 profile. And then the last way, which is probably the easiest, and it is the least amount of information we as public safety will get from you, is if you text the word Ingham to 67283. You will get text alerts only. And we won't have any information. I wouldn't have your name, your location, some of those enhanced features that we just discussed, being able to tell about an access code or a pet or heaven forbid some kind of health condition that you had. That goes away, but it's very simple, and if that is as much as you would like to do, just opt in. That's a quick and easy way to do that. Another free feature of this platform that we're excited about, and we're really hoping that small businesses, well, it doesn't even have to be small, that businesses in this area will consider, is the business side of Smart 911, which is called Motorola Facility. It's essentially the same thing. You can add information and create free facility profile for your business and give us information such as gas shutoffs, floor plans, emergency contacts, whatever the case may be. The biggest difference between these two, outside of one is your personal, and we're talking about a business, is that if you are registered as a Motorola facility, I can search that in a database. So if we end up, unfortunately, at your business late at night for whatever reason, we can go in there and figure out who is the most current contact. And current is the name of the game for us. 100%. Information in this platform and information that we have, if it's not current, we're sending somebody down a rabbit hole. It's part of also what we like about Smart 911 and Motorola Facility. Every 6 months you get a little nudge from them via text message to encourage you to take a look at the information that you've entered into it so that we know whether it's current or not. The QR codes that are on the handouts will take you directly to the web addresses. The other product that we bought was called Rave Link. There was amazing work that was done in February, and there's amazing work done by public safety in this city every single day. They deal constantly with high stress situations that are very complex. Rave Link is a way for me to put a little assistant in their pocket. How do we do it? It will link with the CAD, our computer-aided dispatch. So for example, if Lansing Fire Department is servicing a house fire in the city of Lansing, Chief Sturdivant can decide that he wants this list of tasks to be assigned to the battalion chief that's on the scene. They're professionals, they do this stuff every single day, but it really is just something to kind of encourage this reminder. Maybe it's something so simple as pressing a button saying that they need to send the chief a text message, letting him know that this is occurring. That's something that can easily be set up and done with this product. As we know, these scenes get big, fast. This will also give those people that are responsible on scene the ability to assign these tasks to others. And that's a way for us all to track how this situation evolved, which is very important. I did put my contact information in there, but the other thing I wanted to highlight that I didn't put a slide up for, we also purchased a product called Mobile Reach. This was also part of the lessons we learned in February. So I don't know necessarily how familiar the council is with iPause, which is, you've been woken up by it before. It is information that is set out to a geo-fenced area that has been determined to meet the criteria that you need to know, whatever the case may be, active shooter, missing person, whatever it may be. If you are in that defined area, you get that message. With Mobile Reach, if you have a Smart 911 profile and your address is within our jurisdiction, you will also get that message regardless if you are home or not. Became very important, especially when we have violent incidents, severe weather. If you are not home, I don't want you to come home. I want you to find someplace safe to be. I don't just want that message to reach the people that are in our county. I want it to reach everybody who resides in our county, whether you happen to be home or not. So very important. My contact information is in here. I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody may have. I did provide handouts, some quick cards that I left on the counter for offices or anything that you might deem necessary to pass out to the citizens. I know that the county treasurer's intention is to put it in the tax bills this year. Flyers about Smart 911. We launched on June 1, and we already have almost triple the enrollment we did with Everbridge. We're pretty happy with it so far. The ease of use, we like it. We like the ease of use. Any questions that citizens may have can certainly be directed to me. I'm happy to help troubleshoot anything that may come up. We've had a few things happen, but nothing major to this point. And thank you very much for allowing me to come here and speak to you about it. I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, Barb. Appreciate you being here and presenting for us. Do we have any questions from council at this time? Vice President Hussein.
So I actually don't have any questions regarding this.
Okay.
So I hope I can ask just a few other questions.
Of course.
And it's really just curiosity. So even though we contract with Ingham County 911, I assume that there are specific dispatchers that take calls from City of Lansing limits and then dispatch those to first responders, correct?
The call takers that work for me work all together. We have a longest idle. I don't know if that makes sense. So if we have 5 call takers that work in the 911 center, and it's a round robin. It goes whoever has been the longest idle, which sometimes is not very long being
Okay.
idle. Those calls are then vetted based on what it is and where it is. Then it goes to the appropriate dispatcher. We do have the ability in Ingham County to have dedicated dispatchers for Lansing Police. And then we have fire dispatchers, we call it Metro Fire, that dispatch for Lansing Fire Department, East Lansing Fire Department specifically.
Got it. Okay. And then with regard to, and maybe I'm assuming here,
That's okay.
we talked a little bit earlier about the stress of, the position or within the call center. So I would assume there's a decent amount of transiency. So I think of the transiency, I think of kind of the nature of the contract between the City of Lansing and the call center. And then I think of things that are happening on our end with, ordinances that evolve and sometimes, I don't know, there's changes and sometimes there's, we're essentially taking them off the books. How do you all stay current with City of Lansing law so that you can, in an informed way, take those calls in and make sure you're dispatching correctly, if that makes sense?
It does.
Okay.
We meet monthly. I have an advisory board that advise me 2 seats of the 11 members are specifically assigned to the Lansing Police Department and Lansing Fire Department. But they can, I lean into them, if I'm being very honest. I'm my public safety partners to advise me if they have anything that we need to change as far as how we are taking in information for them.
Okay. And that helps. And those advisory board meetings, I would assume those are public?
Public, third Thursday of the month at 3:00.
That's on Jolly?
No, we have it, our conference room isn't very big, so we have it in Delhi Township.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you, Vice President Hussein. So I got a quick question regarding these, like the Rave Alert app and the Smart 911 app. Do you recommend, like the parents of children that do have smartphones, input their information, or do you recommend the children to have an app as well?
My recommendation would be for the parent, the head of the household, to start the application, to fill in the information, and then add your household members
And
to
their
it.
phone numbers for the kids? And then,
Correct.
so if they were to call in, they would know that you're, okay,
Yes.
makes sense. All right, perfect. Okay, well, okay, well, it looks like, okay, so Trini?
Thank you. I just wanted to, maybe it's more a point of clarification as opposed to a question. Just at a time when, identity theft happens frequently, I know that you had stated before that there is no database that you can access, but technically there is a database that exists somewhere. But you're saying that the dispatchers and the folks who would be taking these calls don't have access to that database. And I just did want to clarify that. In the FAQ frequently asked questions sheet, it says it's stored in a geo-redundant database. Could you just provide a little bit about what that means, just so that folks can get a sense of the fact
Sure.
that their information is secure?
It is, and
Thank
it is
you.
not secured with me at all. This is something that is secured with this nationally known company. This is not something that Ingham County 911 can ping or get any information out of on you personally. We can't do that. Rave's got a geo-redundant setup. It's cloud-based. They've met every security recommendation and every security hoop that we put them through, and it was pretty robust. So they have the highest level of security that we know of for data, which is AES 256 encryption, which is what they produced.
Okay, Councilman Jackson.
Thank you. I know that we're here on the mass notification, but since I had you here, I just had a question on how and if there's been any incorporation for the various crisis intervention teams that include the social worker and/or CMH person, and how has that worked around town?
Well, the city is certainly pushing the envelope in that regard with the social workers that the police department already employs, and then the LCAT unit, which is the dual response. The 911 center right now is in conversation with community mental health, and we are hoping that the public health millage that will be up for renewal in August will help us even more with this, of embedding a clinician inside the 911 center to be able to take even a little bit more off of the plate, so to speak. For example, we take calls very regularly from folks who are saying things to us like, I'm feeling suicidal, but I don't have a method or a weapon. I just really want to talk to somebody about it. And I think it was mentioned during public comment earlier. We have a duty to do something for that citizen, but our options weren't always very robust on how to do that, other than to send a police officer or a social worker or send somebody there. This idea of an embedded clinician would then have somebody inside the 911 center that we could divert that call to be able to have somebody who could dedicate some time to speak to them. And it would be a partnership between the 911 Center and Community Mental Health. Again, the crisis call taker, which is what we are calling it. We are to the point where we have the approval from the county commissioners to try to pursue this position, but we're looking for the funding for it right now.
Thank you for that information.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any additional comments, questions from council? All right, seeing none, thank you, Director Davidson. Appreciate
Thank
you
you.
being here tonight. All right, moving down the list, we are to discussion action items. We have a resolution to appoint Eric Tanz as a City of Lansing member of the Capital Area Transportation Authority Board, term to expire 2026. Mr. Tanz, are you here this evening? You mind coming down to the well? Good evening. Why don't you take a little bit of time to talk a little bit about yourself and why you are applying for this position?
Sure.
Is the green light on? No, that shouldn't be it.
There we go. Okay. So good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me. So I'm a 10-year resident of Lansing's East Side, and I am the Environmental Sciences Librarian and Sustainability Librarian at Michigan State University. So I am a regular alternative transportation commuter, riding the Route 1 bus to MSU's campus or riding my bicycle. And I believe that public transit is a vital service for any robust city that reduces our carbon footprint while also getting people to where they need to go. It's also a catalyst for growth, which I think is something that the entire state is kind of grappling with. But young professionals are increasingly moving to places where they are able to take advantage of public transportation opportunities. And so if Lansing is going to be a growing city, then that's something that we need to have available for them. So I'm interested in just supporting the Capital Area Transit Authority in whatever way that I can, and I'm a big proponent of public transit.
Okay, well, thanks for being here and much appreciation to your willingness to serve our community, so thank you for that. Do we have any questions or concerns from council? Councilman Jackson, then Vice President Hussein.
Thank you. I just want to thank Eric for being here. I'm biased, and I'm going to support him because I know him personally as a friend and a friend of the family. He was over for s'mores with his daughter last weekend, so all that other stuff on the resume looks good as well. Thank you.
Did you take the bus over there?
No.
Vice President Hussein.
Just a few questions that we typically ask. First is, how did you hear about the vacancy, and did anybody ask you to apply for this particular vacancy?
I was not asked to apply, but I'm friends and neighbors with somebody who was on the board, and I think that she stepped down, and I was aware that there was the vacancy because she was no longer on the board.
Awesome. Okay. And then your application was relatively new, but because of some things that have happened as of late, I have to ask this question. Anything with regard to the application changed since April when you actually submitted?
No.
No? Okay. And then I appreciate that you talked about catalyst for growth. You talked about the environmental aspect when we talk about public transportation, connecting employers with employees, all of these things. The fixed route system is something that is discussed a lot out in the neighborhoods, a lot. And frankly, some folks are concerned with regard to how much time it takes to get to certain places. Particularly, I think, you look at, and of course I represent Southwest Lansing, but there's a number of, as we get further south and further west, there are some issues that need to, I think first need to be onboarded, and then I think obviously we need to identify solutions and implement. So with that, would you be willing to attend neighborhood meetings, constituent contact meetings, things of that nature, to listen, to learn, and then to take those things back to the board?
Yeah, yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
fantastic.
I think, the public transportation system only works for as well as the people that ride it. Like, if they're able to get where they need to go in an amount of time that works for them. So if the system isn't working for people, and we need to get that feedback in order to figure out a way to come to a solution.
Fantastic. And then for the administration, real quick, City of Lansing Boards and Commissions, the website shows that we have 2 vacant positions, City of Lansing positions. Do we know if another applicant is forthcoming?
I don't know without checking.
You're not sure? Okay. Because I believe we have right now Nathan Triplett, Derek Milo, and then we'd have Mr. Is it Tans? Tans.
Tans.
Okay, fantastic. All right. Those are my questions.
All right, thank you, Vice President Hussein. Do we have any additional remarks or questions or comments from council? All right, seeing none, looking for a motion.
Sure. I would move the resolution of appointment.
All right, we have a proper motion in place. Any additional comments? All right, seeing none. All those in favor, please state by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, motion passes. So this is on for this evening at council. Will you be here to get sworn in? If not, you're assuming you do get appointed to this position, you could come in as early as tomorrow morning to the clerk's office to get sworn in.
When would the swearing in happen tonight? Is that after the meeting?
Yeah, it will be towards the front end of the meeting. So the meeting's 7 o'clock meeting.
No. I will arrange another time to do
Okay.
the swearing in.
All right, well, thank you. Thanks for being here. All right, moving on down the line. We have a resolution to set a public hearing for readopting the codified ordinances. So this is something that we've been doing since 2018. Public hearing is set for July 8th. It's an annual exercise. It's around the budget time, annually reviewed and renewed. Would you have anything to add, City Attorney?
No.
Okay.
Well stated.
Do we have any questions or concerns? All right, seeing none. Vice President Hussein.
All right. So again, the resolution was set a public hearing for July 8th. With that, I would move the resolution.
Okay, we have a proper motion in place. Seeing no additional questions or comments, all those in favor, please state by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. All right, motion passes. All right, moving down to resolution, annual training requirement, all city boards and commissions training on the ethics ordinance, conflicts of interest, and the Open Meetings Act. So this is also an annual exercise we've been doing since 2020. And do we have anything else to add for that, City Attorney?
No.
Okay, so this is an annual exercise that we'll be doing, and we've been doing it since 2020. Do we have any questions or comments from council? Vice President Hussein.
Yeah, just I guess I'm curious in terms of who communicates, who confirms that these things are happening. What does that look like in terms of the actual training within the respective shops?
And these are done through HR, aren't they?
Lisa Hagan from my office can answer that. I know that at the beginning of the year, we reach out to all the boards and commissions, but I'll let her answer more directly.
It's my understanding that at the time of appointment, as well as on a yearly basis, the clerk communicates to the board members about a reminder to complete the training. Our office, recorded a video training, so they receive it online, then they watch it and certify that they watched it. And then from time to time, we also receive questions, which we answer either at the board meeting or to an individual board member as they come up.
Okay, and then so there's the annual piece, but then anytime there's a new appointee within 60 days, they go through the same training, right? What's the penalty for not completing?
There is not a penalty. This is not an ordinance. This is a resolution. So it's a requirement, but there's no specific penalty enumerated.
Yeah, that's what I thought I remembered from the initial back in 2020 when we did this. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any additional comments from council? All right, seeing none. Vice President Hussein.
Sorry. Yep, I would move the resolution.
Okay, we have a proper motion in place. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. All right, motion passes. All right, moving down to Resolution F, Greater Lansing Regional Committee for Stormwater Management Membership and Memorandum of Agreement. I believe Nicole McPherson's here. Can you come on down, please? Nicole works for the Public Service Department. Looks like you know the routine.
Yep.
All right,
Good evening.
floor's yours, thank you.
It's on, right? Okay. Good evening, council. So in front of you today is the resolution for the continued membership and support of the memorandum of agreement for the Greater Lansing Regional Committee on Stormwater. For those of you who may not know what that is a committee that's through the Tri-County Regional Planning Commission, and the benefit of that for the, I think it's 16 communities, including City of Lansing, is to help with the requirements that are set forth by EGLE, or the Michigan Department of Great Lakes Energy and Environment, or Environment, Great Lakes and Energy. Close enough. For our National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, for the requirements of our MS4 program, which is a municipal separate storm sewer system. So we participate within this program and this committee. We get benefit from them in regards to the public education plan. They promote surveys, and we get regional collaboration for ways to comply with this permit. Any questions?
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions from council? Seeing none, so this gets reviewed every 4 years?
Approximately, we'll go through as the committee and we'll update it as, different things come about, whether it's through different permit requirements. We'll update the memorandum of agreement. I see because I'm the chair of the GLRC at this point. And then whenever that gets updated is when we come back to this group to be able to get, that approval for that continued support of that. So every 4 to 5 years, our permit is every 5 years.
Okay, all right, thank you. Do we have any additional questions from council? All right, seeing none. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah,
Much
no problem.
appreciated. Vice President Hussein.
So with that explanation, I would move the resolution. This deals with Greater Lansing Region Committee for Stormwater Management Membership and Memorandum of Agreement.
Okay, we have a proper motion in place. All those in favor, please state by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. All right, motion passes. Thank you. All right, moving down. Discussion item, internal auditor annual reporting, long-term debt, and analysis of the financial position of the city. Internal auditor, Jim DeLine.
Thank you, President Garza. We have with us tonight Desiree Kirtland, who is the city finance director. And I think in my presentation a couple of times I thank her because we were under a short time frame. We didn't have a lot of time to work together. But Desiree was very responsive whenever I had a question. We'll take these one at a time. The long-term debt document was sent to each council member in the packet for tonight's meeting. And that's also where members of the public or of the media can find it. They can find it online under the committee of the whole packet. The document was also sent to the mayor and to the city clerk. As council knows, this report, which we refer to as the debt book, is based on information from fiscal year 2023. That means that all the information in the debt book is from June 30th, 2023 or before. Nothing more current than that. And the information is audited. The audit was conducted by our local firm of Maynard Christerison and was made available to the city in January of 2024. Well, so the public may ask, it's now June. What took so long to provide an analysis? And on the cover page of this debt book, you'll see that it was compiled by me, Jim DeLine, the interim internal auditor. There has been some turnover in the office of the internal auditor, and so we apologize that it took so long. Long-term debt can take several forms, but the elephant in the room is bonds. Bonds account for 90% of the city's long-term debt. Council members can find a listing of all bonds and all other long-term debt instruments on pages 9 and 10 of this report. When the public voted to approve a new public safety facility, they voted to approve selling a bond. This particular bond, sold in fiscal year 2023, had a big impact on the city's long-term debt. Due to the high interest rates that were dominant in 2023, this bond also carries the highest interest rate in any of the outstanding bonds that you'll see on pages 9 and 10. There's a page in the document that shows how close the $175 million bond pushed us to our legal debt limit. Council members will find that chart on page 8. This document itemizes every outstanding bond as well as installment purchases and loans. As you might guess, when the city bought a fire truck, they took out a loan. So I can now do my best to answer any questions that council members may have, and if I can't answer their question, probably Desiree can.
All right, thank you, Jim. Appreciate that, and thank you for being here to ask any additional questions, Desiree. Do we have any questions from council? Vice President Hussein.
Just real quick, because there's quite a bit here, so I apologize because I know the information is within. What is the interest rate on the GO bonds for the Public Safety Council?
It can vary between 4 and 5%
5%.
on that public safety bond. Most of the other bonds are 1 to 2.75%.
Okay. And then what is the legal debt limit for the city of Lansing?
I've got to look at the chart, which,
Right.
what I say it was on page 8?
I think so. I'm struggling to pull it up for some.
The legal debt limitation at the end of fiscal year '23 was $306 million. Of that, we have in debt on the bonds. Our debt right at that fiscal year was $229 million, which leaves a little cushion of $77 million, which sounds like a lot of money, but that's a little cushion.
Okay. Councilman Spatafor.
Jim, if you said it was while I was flipping the page, so it was right side on my screen. How's the legal debt, the debt limitation calculated? Is a percentage of what?
I don't know.
Oh.
Desiree, can you help us?
Per the ordinance charter, it is the percentage is calculated based on the property taxable property value.
Thank you.
And it can't exceed 10% of that.
And does any of the payments on these debts come out of GF, or do they all have dedicated revenue streams?
I'm sorry?
They're paid for by, for the most part, dedicated revenue streams approved by the voters.
Yes.
Are there any that are paid for out of the general fund?
I believe so. Aren't
Yes,
there,
there are.
Desiree? Yeah.
Do you know approximately how much?
I do not, but I could provide that information for you.
Thank you.
Do we have any additional? Oh, sorry.
It's probably the revenue bonds, right?
I'm sorry?
It's probably the revenue bonds, right?
That's
Okay.
correct.
Yeah, okay. I don't need any more information then. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Well, and President Garza, I remember you asking me a question about, how bonds are put together and negotiated, and I couldn't answer your question, which was one of the reasons why I really was hopeful that Desiree would be here tonight.
Yeah, thank you. And it's my understanding, not to put you on the spot, that Mr. DeLine broached those questions to you, so you might
Yes.
potentially be prepared. So I guess my question is, when we talked about the bond interest rates, the ones that are for the public safety, and they seem pretty low, 4 or 5%. Are those low? Are those considered low? Because
They're considered low for the season that we're in.
Okay.
So when the bonds were sold through the broker, some of them are less than 4%. I would say most of them are less than 4%, which means we cannot earn more than what we're actually paid out. So the bond money is sitting in the bank account, which is earning interest. Some interest is up to 5% that we're earning on that money until it is expense in construction debt. So we're actually earning more than what we're paying out for a season, but that has to balance out because anything that we make over that then has to be paid to the federal government. And that's called the arbitrage calculation that we have to do every year to make sure we are not making money on our bonds. So to answer you, some of them are most of them are less than 4%, but they cannot average more than 5% in earnings.
So, and the reason I'm being asking that question is, has the city been maintaining low interest rate levels? For instance, have we been proactively engaging to try to reduce our interest rates?
Yes, we have.
Great. And has the city created a debt reduction plan?
Not just yet. I have spoken with our municipal advisors to look at all of the city's debt and to give us some direction on when we can refinance or whatever we need to do to lower our debt.
Okay, great. That's all the questions I have right now. Councilman Spatafor?
Yeah, I think the question I had was kind of related to what Council President Garza said. So we will, in some way, in the future, be able to look at these and say if interest rates do fall, we have refinanced our bonds before, and
Yes.
I know Greg's been a part of a lot of that kind of stuff. So, but do you know, are we in a place where the liquid amount that was raised by the sale of the bonds is earning that 5%? Are we?
Yes, we are.
At risk of arbitrage? Okay, that's good.
Yes, we are.
That's good news. So it's basically pushed right now. It's a
That's
push, right?
correct.
Okay.
And it has to stay with the construction. It cannot go into general fund.
Sure, yeah, of course, but
That's correct.
we're not actually paying interest because we're earning interest.
That's correct.
That covers the cost of the interest right now until we start spending money on the construction and then.
Yes.
Got it, thanks.
All right. Do we have any additional questions from council? All right, seeing none. Well, thank you.
Okay, well, I have the second document, unless.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Did Councilman Philip have a question? Oh, okay. All right. Okay, so the second presentation is called the Annual Analysis of the Financial Condition of the City. And again, like the debt book, this annual analysis was in the city packet. It's online. It was also sent to the mayor and to the city clerk. And as council knows, the book is based on information for fiscal year 2023. Again, that means all the information is financial information happening June 30th, 2023 or before. All the information is documented and compiled from the comprehensive annual financial reports. And we refer to that all the time as the CAFR. That CAFR, as well as this report, is available online, and the CAFR is available through the Finance Department's website. As with the long-term debt document, the information is audited. The audit was conducted by local firm Maida Costerison and was made available to the city in January. So again, it's June. We apologize that it took so long. The city charter mandates this report. So why does the city charter mandate that an annual analysis of the financial condition of the city be done by the internal auditor? Well, people should know, is the city going broke? You know, in my last tenure as the city's internal auditor 8 years ago, the answer was, yeah, maybe we are. You know, if you'll remember from 8 years ago, there was even a discussion, maybe we should sell the Board of Water and Light because we sure as heck don't want to go broke. But even 8 years ago, as internal auditor, if I was asked, is the city going broke? The answer was no. And the answer is still no here at the end of 2023. When I was talking about long-term debt, I mentioned that the city is near the legal limit as to how much debt it can take on. But this report, this 2023 report, shows much more. Generally, across the board, revenues are up, expenses are down. And keep in mind that the city has several pockets of revenue and their individual related expenses. These are the city's many funds, and the public knows this. They know the sewage fund, they know the parking fund. You know, let's see. All of the funds are documented in the CAFR, and most of them are covered in my report. There are some financial aspects of the city that even people who can't balance a checkbook are aware of. We've heard for years that the retirement benefits and healthcare costs will drive the city bankrupt. These costs each year are paid from what is known as the fiduciary fund. The fiduciary fund has maintained a net balance over the years of approximately $570 million. Now, $570 million isn't really enough to pay our non-current expenses, but overall, the city's doing well. The city's not going broke. The other fund that is often discussed is the general fund. This is the fund where our taxes go. So everyone needs to know how their taxes are being spent. And while people have approved parks bonds and public safety bonds, the general fund still pays for most of those expenses and, of course, pays for the mayor, pays for city council, pays for me, pays for the finance department, and pays for most of the people who work for the city, as well as their supplies and their equipment. In fiscal year 2023, you should know that the general fund expenses were actually less than that, which was the final 23 budget. Your city employees are being good at staying within budget. They're good stewards with your tax money. That being said, fiscal year 2023 was a tough one for revenue. In order to completely fund the general fund, revenues combined with the use of budget stabilization funds that everybody calls the rainy day fund increased over $6 million from the previous fiscal year. Additionally, as I mentioned in the long-term debt presentation, interest rates were quite high in 2023. That's a double-edged sword. General fund monies that the city had invested in treasury instruments earned a great deal more interest in 2023 than it did in 2022. So, in this report, as your interim internal auditor, I try to provide council and other readers with the most essential information, as well as anticipate what items the readers would be interested in the short amount of time that I was serving in this position. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, that didn't allow a lot of time for back and forth between the finance director and myself. So I'm glad she's here tonight, and I'll do my best to answer any questions. And again, if I can't answer them, hopefully Desiree can. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. Do we have any additional questions or comments from council? Councilman Jackson.
Thank you for your work. You said that the city is not going broke, and I just want to clarify that we're not broke, but is the trajectory towards broke, and how do you take into account the injection of COVID-era funds and now the lack of that into the general fund and its trajectory towards or away from brokenness?
Yeah, good question, Councilman Jackson. You know, we went through the budget process for next fiscal year, and as you'll recall, again, the city budget for 2025, just like for the present fiscal year, was pretty tight. And the administration is doing a very good job at that. Also, I mentioned there's a fund after a fund after a fund, and every one of those funds does carry forward a net fund balance. So there's money in the bank in all of those funds, and no, I would say the trajectory is a positive one.
Okay. All right, do we have any additional questions or comments from council? All right, seeing none, Vice President Hussein?
Sure, I would move that we place both the long-term debt report as well as the internal auditor's analysis of the financial position of the city on file.
Okay, we have a proper motion in place. All those in favor, please state by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, motion passes. All right, moving down to Resolution H, Local Development and Finance Authority, LDFA, budget approval. I see we have Chris Klein in the audience, but we do have our Executive Assistant, Mark Lawrence. This was a late item. Do you want to comment on that?
Yes, this was an item that simply was overlooked when we went to do the city budget last time. It's a correction we've made on the staff level, and my understanding is this will be kind of baked into next year's budget when we pass all that through. And Chris can give us details on what's in it.
Okay, Chris, do you mind stepping down? Appreciate you guys being here to expand a little bit on this.
Good evening, Council. Chris Klein with the Lansing EDC. Also with me is Angel Miller. She is the director of the Regional Smart Zone, works with LEAP, and oversees the operations of the LDFA Smart Zone. So as Mark had mentioned, the miscommunication that occurred as far as getting this budget approved, which is by end of fiscal year, which is required by statute that it be approved by council prior to being adopted by the board. And so the board meets next week. We want to adopt the budget prior to the end of the fiscal year. It is a joint LDFA. So there's both East Lansing and Lansing are partners in the organization, in the entity. You might recall in 2022 there was an extension of that, and so the budget itself reflects a lot of utilizing some funds that were available, and so it's kind of eating away at some of that fund balance for those additional 5 years of capture that's allowed. Something probably most important to note for all of us, all of you and residents of the city, you can see here the amount of capture from the city of East Lansing, and then the amount of capture from the city of Lansing. For Lansing City, all zeros. The capture area, the district within the city of Lansing, it's within where McLaren, the new McLaren campus is essentially. So from the highway to Collins, from Forest to Dunkel, that was the university research park. And so there's high hopes of development there, private development, when this was established almost 2 decades ago. That did not occur, and a lot of that turned into nonprofit use. And so the base value, and we probably talk about this a lot with TIFs, like brownfields and that, but the base value was set extremely high, over $11 million, and the current value is around $4 million. And so it's upside down, it's negative. It doesn't mean that we owe anything, it's just there's no capture, and not really an outlook to have any capture. And so it doesn't impact City of Lansing taxes, doesn't capture any of those. So it does utilize only City of East Lansing taxes. Now through the cooperation of both cities, there is 10%, I believe 10% for the a fund, what's that called? Rising Tide Fund. So 10% shared between the communities, and so that helps invest in both City of East Lansing and City of Lansing. So there is benefit. Although there is no capture for City of Lansing, there is benefit there as well. So hopefully that explains.
Well, I appreciate the explanation. Thanks for being here. Did you? I thought maybe you may have had something else to add.
No, like he said, I'm Angel Miller, the director of the Lansing Regional Smart Zone. I did want to emphasize that although we don't have a tax capture, a TIF from Lansing, you are benefiting from this because we do outreach out in Lansing, and we have a few actually that grew significantly tech businesses that grew from East Lansing and they expanded within Lansing. And then we also have an Apple Community Education Initiative with MSU, and they are in the Lansing School District's K-12 with their coding program. So there is several ways that we are expanding the businesses in Lansing. We're also in the education system as well.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from council? I'm sorry. Did you have one first, and then we'll move to Jim?
Quick, yeah.
Okay. Vice President Hussein.
Just curious, when and where are the board meetings? Online it says that they are still being held via Zoom.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear those last
So
part.
when and where are I would assume there are board meetings, correct?
Yeah, so our next one is next Tuesday at 8:30, and we hold them at the Technology Innovation Center in East Lansing.
Okay, and then for, I would assume the administration, just so folks know, on our website, it says that those meetings are still being held via Zoom, so we just need to update that. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any additional comments or questions from council? All right, seeing none, internal auditor.
Thank you, President Garza. Chris, and I'm sorry, was it Angie?
Angel.
Angel, thank you so much. Looking at the budget that you submitted to us, and I think Chris has already answered my questions. You know, I had a question on the zero Lansing tax capture. And, you know, I'm always in favor of not taking any city tax money or tax capture, so I don't want to open that can of worms of it. But I did notice in the 4-year history, I know the organization goes back to 2005. In the 4-year history here, only 1 year showed a positive budget. You know, all the others were in the hole. And the budget for 2025, expenses overpower revenues by $340,000. And so you talked about how we talked about fund balance, and you're talking about, yeah, darn if that dips into the fund balance. So how much of a fund balance is that going to leave?
So ultimately, the goal is zero. Essentially, the funding for it, we got an extension for 5 years, and so it's spending down that fund balance. There's a possibility with legislative changes and approvals by the local municipalities to extend it. But am I correct there?
Yes.
So the goal is to spend it all the way down.
Okay.
Essentially, so over the next few years, and this is showing it's spending all of the fund balance to zero.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Seeing no further questions from council, thank you for being here. Much appreciated for explaining. Oh, I'm sorry, Vice President Hussein.
Sure, I would move the resolution that deals with the approval of the budget for the LDFA.
All right, thank you, Vice President Hussein. We have a proper motion in place. All those in favor, please state by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. All right, motion passes. Okay, moving down, okay, seeing no further business, we are adjourned. We will see you back at 7 p.m. for council.